Welcome back to the stage of history, stranger. If you've seen my previous video, you know that Soul Blade is kind of like my favorite fighting game of all time. What I haven't mentioned is that I never even knew the series continued with Soulcalibur, not until Soulcalibur 4. I basically missed the whole PS2 era of this series. And as for Soulcalibur 1 on Dreamcast, I've never even touched this game. Until now. I had many expectations going in from Soul Blade, especially because Soulcalibur is one of the highest rated games of all time. And now that I've immersed myself in it, I have a lot of conflicting feelings.
Like my Soul Blade retrospective, I'll go through every character in terms of story and lore, and explain everything else as I go on.
I'm Purix, and this is the ultimate Soulcalibur retrospective.
There was once a pirate with a pair of evil swords capable of bringing destruction to the world. His name was Cervantes. The demonic influence of these swords made him kill his entire crew and slaughter anyone who came near the Spanish port town he was living at. After this reign of terror, Cervantes fell into a dormant state before eventually awakening again to spread more destruction. Cervantes himself has stopped aging. Over the next 20 years, rumors of these evil swords began spreading throughout the world, but the details were distorted. People called the weapon whatever suited their fantasies. The valiant sword, the sword of salvation, the ultimate weapon, but their real name was Soul Edge. People actively searched for these twin swords for many different reasons. A few who found Soul Edge and its owner Cervantes met an unfortunate end. Sophitia, a warrior from Greece chosen by the god Hephaestus himself, was an exception. She managed to shatter one of the swords while fighting Cervantes, but she was unlucky as the fragment of the shattered Soul Edge wounded her. That's when Taki, a demon hunter ninja, jumped in and saved her. She also defeated the now weakened but furious Cervantes. After taking a fragment of Soul Edge to later use in her forge, she left Cervantes' lifeless body and escaped with Sophitia. Sometime later, another unfortunate soul arrived at the Spanish port, a 16-year-old boy named Siegfried. He was searching for Soul Edge to take revenge for the death of his father, calling the blade Sword of Vengeance. When he found the corpse of Cervantes still gripping the remaining blade, the pirate suddenly rose in a burst of hellfire. His skin started melting and his body got possessed. The hellish remains of Cervantes attacked Siegfried and a brutal fight broke out. But Siegfried, blinded by the power of Soul Edge, defeated the corpse with his massive two-handed sword. After the battle, Siegfried, now holding a broken Zweihander, went to pick up Soul Edge as if being guided by the evil sword. Soul Edge, having lost its host, now found a new one. And thus, a new age of chaos would begin in an important incident in Soulcalibur series known as Evil Seed. These were the events that happened 3 years before the game takes place in 1583. Although many details were retconned between Soul Edge and Soulcalibur, this is still a continuation, and the events here are a blend of endings from the previous game. But with Soulcalibur acting as a soft reboot, the main cast changed. The game presents Kilik, Xianghua, and Maxi as its new poster trio. So I'll start there with none other than the new main character, Kilik. There exist 3 sacred relics belonging to a temple called Lingshengsu, a sacred staff called Kali Yuga, a mirror known as Dwapar Yuga, and a sword named Krita Yuga, which was stolen from the temple long ago. Kilik was an orphan found as a baby at the doorstep of the Lingshengsu temple in China. The monks raised him to become their finest staff fighter and eventually selected him to inherit the sacred staff Kali Yuga. Among the other students was Zhongliang, a fellow orphan whom Kilik saw as an older sister. She was chosen to inherit the sacred mirror Dwapar Yuga. The night of the inheritance ceremony, held once every 20 years, was the same night that Evil Seed incident took place. Soul Edge's influence drove the monks to madness and the temple fell into chaos. A bloodbath ensued. In his possessed state, Kilik slaughtered his fellow monks with the power of Kali Yuga. Zhongliang at the moment realized that Dwapar Yuga could repel the Evil Seed's control. She sacrificed herself and gave it to Kilik to stop him. He broke free from Soul Edge's influence only to find the temple in complete chaos. He was forced to fight and kill the only family he had left, including his sworn sister, Zhongliang, who had also fallen under the Evil Seed's control. Kilik survived only to awaken 2 days later, rescued by an old man named Edgemaster. He fought desperately for a chance to live, and yet the pain of living was more than he could bear. Now cursed in body and bound to a corrupted Kali Yuga, the very stuff that ended Zhongliang's life, Kilik must confront Soul Edge to purify himself. Otherwise, the staff could very well create another monster like Soul Edge. Under Edgemaster's guidance, Kilik trained to tame the demons within him before setting out westward to confront the source of his curse. I am glad that the somewhat dark tone from Soul Blade storytelling is still present here. While Kilik's character is a bit cliché, reminiscent of Evil Ryu or Devil Jean, he still fits perfectly within the world of Soulcalibur. His gameplay though isn't for everyone. He's a harder character to master with many terrible moves. Most of them have long startup frames, no tracking whatsoever, and leave you wide open for punishment. Still, his Nutcracker move is a standout. But speaking of gameplay, the core mechanics haven't changed much from Soul Blade. X square or A performs a horizontal attack, good for catching side steps. Y, triangle or B does a slower vertical move that's effective against crouching opponents. And B, circle or K is for kicks, which just like in Soul Blade vary depending on the character. You still guard with A, cross or G, but now there's no durability bar. I'll sprinkle in more gameplay stuff as we go. To reach the conclusion of Kilik's story, we need to play through the arcade mode. This involves fighting 8 opponents. The 7th opponent is always a rival character with whom we get a short special dialogue. However, these exchanges usually amount to nothing. For Kilik, this rival is Nightmare, the current wielder of Soul Edge. After defeating him, a cutscene plays where our character enters a guard stance and Soul Edge suddenly transforms into an inhuman fiery figure. This is Inferno, the final boss. He's essentially Soul Edge in physical form. Yet another change from Soul Blade. The skeleton Cervantes we fought in the game is named Inferno now. Once we defeat him, we receive the final cutscene, presented as a slideshow similar to the arcade endings in Soul Blade. Soul Edge, though defeated, tries once again to scatter itself across the world. At that moment, Kilik begins chanting something, and the Dwapar Yuga splits apart, extinguishing Soul Edge's fire. This time, the catastrophe that followed Cervantes' defeat does not repeat itself. Through many battles, Kilik has learned to control the demons within him, yet his journey of self-discipline and training continues. Now, if you're a man of culture who played Soul Edge, or better yet watched my previous videos on it, you might be asking, is that all? And the answer is yes. Unlike Soul Edge or Soul Blade, this game doesn't have an Edge Master mode to flesh out its setting or expand on the characters. What you get is an arcade ending and a character profile that explains the character's background, and that profile unlocks after beating arcade mode. In other words, you see the character's ending first and only then you get to read their background. Not to mention, the profile viewer itself is locked by default and must be unlocked through another method. It's a bit disappointing, but the story content we get isn't half bad, especially that the original website profile is full of details to flesh out these characters. If I didn't read those, I would have felt nothing for Kilik because of how bare bones the game is in terms of story. I only wish that the website content was implemented in the game itself. Lastly, let's talk about Kilik's costumes. He has two. His default outfit clearly takes place after the Evil Seed incident, since he's carrying both sacred relics. The color red dominates this design, which is an interesting choice, since red is usually used sparingly for main characters in fighting games. His second costume looks more like a monk attire with more balanced color tone and only a splash of color red. This might hint at a more peaceful state of mind, maybe after his ending, a nice contrast with his first costume. He's also quite short, standing at only 5'6". I genuinely like Kilik's design, and playing Soulcalibur 1 gave me a deeper appreciation for him. For what the game offers, this is a strong start. Next, we have Xianghua, the current owner of the stolen relic Krita Yuga. This 16-year-old girl learned sword fighting from her mother, who passed away 5 years ago. She was born in the Ming Empire, the same empire Li Long served, and just like in Soul Blade, the Emperor is still hunting for Soul Edge. I was genuinely surprised how this connects back to that game. They even call Soul Edge the hero's sword. Back then it was the valiant sword, but hey, points for consistency. The Emperor, irritated that he still hasn't gotten his hands on the hero's sword, orders his royal guard to go find it. And yes, this royal guard includes a 16-year-old girl. I mean, if a trained assassin couldn't track it down, maybe sending a group of clowns will do the trick. They disguise themselves as a Chinese opera troupe with Jinhua as the star to avoid suspicion. Before setting off, she recalled her mother's last words: "You were born to complete an important task. Cut your path through an uncertain future." Unlike Kilik, Jinhua is way easier to play. Juggles are still how you do combos in this game, and hers are some of the better ones in my experience. Compared to Soul Blade, this game is way faster thanks to the new 8-way run system. In other 3D fighting games at the time, you had to sidestep to move around the 3D space. Here, if you push up, for example, or in Soulcalibur's numpad notation, 8, instead of jumping, your character just walks upward. This makes the whole flow of the game so much faster and so much more fun. One of Jinhua's better moves is her launcher, down down 2, triangle or Y. In Soulcalibrian language, that's 2-2-B. You tell me which one to use in my next videos. Anyway, with her 2-2-Bs into 4Ks, you can do some nasty combos, and with how much you can carry the enemy in the air, ring outs have have never been easier. Xianghua's arcade mode is a bit different compared to others. You do your first 7 matches normally, ending with Nightmare, but then a cutscene happens where Krita Yuga turns into Soulcalibur. Hey, that's the name of the game. This only changes the look of your sword, which is lame, but at least they tried something different this time. Upon defeating Inferno, Xianghua asks herself if this was her destiny that her mother told her about. In-game, we get no context for any of this, but the website profile is here to help. Xianghua was a descendant of the Chai family, a strong family with lineage of proud soldiers serving the nation. Once the eldest son succeeded his father's estate, the remaining sons left the house to search for their independence. The second son of the house settled down in a town where Su temple was, the same one Kilik trained at. To continue their strong fighting tradition, the man brought his daughter Zhangfei to the temple. She trained in swordplay there and surpassed even the monks. If only she was a man, she would have been nominated to be the successor of the secret arts of the Su temple. After some time, she fell in love with another monk named Kong, the probable candidate for Kali Yuga. It was a forbidden love that they both kept hidden until they had a baby. Her name was Xianglian, the older sister of Kilik. She was actually Xianghua's sister all this time, but that's also when the monks slowly found out about their relationship and immediately separated them. They took their daughter and expelled the poor Zhangfei. She went back to her family with another child that was yet to be born. But before she left, Kong gave her a sword we know as Krita Yuga, as proof of their love. Zhangfei left and hoped Kong would focus on his life as a monk and forget about her. She didn't even tell her second child Xianghua that she had a father. The temple soon found out that their sacred sword was missing, and all the traces went back to Kong. Then they expelled him too. They started a search for the sword and found Zhangfei, but not the sword itself. Krita Yuga had changed forms in case it got separated from the other relics. No one knew that the sword Xianghua was wielding and training with was the actual Soulcalibur. She grew up not knowing she had a poor elder sister or a father, and because of the sins of her father, her sister grew up in a very bad and anxious state in the temple, knowing she could only inherit the stupid mirror between all the sacred treasures. By all accounts, Xianghua is what Zhonglian wished to become, someone with a loving mother and a future as a sword fighter. Oh boy, it's such a shame that we didn't experience any of this in game. I mean, the Soul series basically has the best story in all fighting games, and in Soulcalibur 1, it's hidden behind a wall of text outside of the game. But hey, at least we get a Li Long name drop here. Xianghua is one of the 5 characters that actually get 3 costumes instead of 2. Her main costume has a dominously blue color which contrasts perfectly with Kilik. Her second seems more traditional, likely tracing back to her Chai family lineage. Her third though, I don't like that much. Even though it's more revealing, it feels heavy on her. I hated this character all my life, mostly thanks to my uncle beating me with her in later games, but now I like her. But to complete our trio, we have Maxi. I hate this character with a strong passion for replacing Li Long. Let's see if this game can change that. Maxi is a 24-year-old pirate from the kingdom of Ryukyu. One day during his absence, Kiam, his best bud and sworn brother, was taking care of his ship. Kilik was looking for a ship to travel on at the time and choose theirs. Kiam instantly took a liking to Kilik, saying, "You have a good eye. Be our guest and I'll ask my brother for you." Alas, things always go wrong in this series. A mysterious ship appeared out of nowhere, unleashing monsters with dead eyes. Kilik fought them off with his Kali Yuga, but Maxi's crew were getting wrecked. The battle was raging as Maxi returned. "You bastards, prepare to die!" Maxi and Kilik joined forces to drive the monsters back, but that's when the giant Astaroth with his huge axe attacked. He mortally wounded Kiam and pulled the Dwapar Yuga of Kilik as they retreated. Then Kilik lost control and attacked Maxi. Maxi for some reason knew that the stupid mirror could revert him back, so he put it back on him. Afterwards, Kilik fell unconscious. Kiam, now at death's door, told Maxi with his last breath to take Kilik west and see the world. Afterwards, they both journeyed on to take revenge. Now, sorry to disappoint you, but that's all we have for Maxi, including his Japanese website profile. This guy is meant to be Li Long's replacement, but as far as movesets go, he inherited so little from him. He's a stance-heavy character and I don't really know how to play him, but I saw this on Soulcalibur Discord. I don't know if this is a joke, but it worked for me. Since I can't say much about this character in terms of gameplay, I can still show 2 of my favorite moves that he got from Li Long. Monkey Magic, which our tryhard Maxi does upside down, and his unblockable Circle of Destruction, which he performs in reverse. And yes, unblockable moves returned from Soul Blade, and they're way faster now. As we play arcade mode, we reach Astaroth, and you might think they have something interesting to tell each other. Yeah, I don't think so. After defeating Inferno, just like Li Long, he kneels in pain instead of doing his win pose. He ends up dying in his own ending. I know this will piss off nearly everyone, but Maxi is a poor imitation of Li Long in nearly every way, from his story to even his weapon Fatable. But I can't deny his sense of fashion. Although I I don't like his try-hard hairstyle, the White Admiral coat looks good on him. He basically always has his chest exposed in every game. His second costume though looks stupid to me. They always look like a created character even though Soulcalibur 1 doesn't have one yet. His third looks straight out of Mad Max. I'm sorry to say this, but as amazing as Kilik and especially Xianghua were, Maxi just looks flat to me in every way. And his rival Astaroth looks even more lame to me. Actually, he's the one we're going to take a look at next. There exists a god of destruction named Pangea, who had a priest named Kunpaetku. This priest created a Frankenstein-like monster named Astaroth. Pangea wanted Soul Edge, so he ordered Kunpaetku to find it. The priest sent Astaroth to obtain it. And I kid you not, that's his entire backstory. This giant baby man, only 3 years old, is basically just a jobber. I'm biased towards him because he later replaces Rock, but even objectively, he's the worst character so far. But to be fair, Kunpaetku is interesting. His god complex is evident in creating Astaroth from nothing, and he believes that if he obtains Soul Edge, he could become a god, which is why he plans to keep the evil sword for himself when Astaroth brings it to him. There's also one notable detail about his axe Kulutus. The souls it takes are sent to Soul Edge, which is now in Nightmare's hands. When Soul Edge is full of souls, he will deliver it to Pangea to trigger his apocalypse. Astaroth is essentially faking an alliance with Nightmare. When it comes to gameplay, many of Astaroth's moves can be charged to become unblockable. He also has multiple command throws, including a launcher, but he isn't a combo-heavy character. A defining mechanic of this series is Guard Impact, a parry system. Unlike Soul Blade, you can parry nearly everything here, including kicks and throws. What you cannot parry are command throws and unblockables, and Astaroth has many of them, but I should use the term parry carefully here. You see, this game introduces two Guard Impacts, a repel performed by 6G and a parry performed by 4G. Repels send enemies backward and parries send them sideways. Another mechanic is re-guard impacting. If you're guard impacted, you can only perform a guard impact in return or will be hit with a combo or a back throw. It's a solid upgrade over Soul Blade, but slightly overcomplicated since to parry low you must push 1 or 3G. Anyways, after finishing the game with this giant baby, he claims Soul Edge and kills his so-called god Kunpaetku by dragging him into a hellfire. What were his intentions? There's no way to know. A lame character with a somewhat interesting playstyle. His costumes are also unremarkable. Like, look at him. He's a blank bald muscle guy with useless armor, a red blob at his chest and jiggle physics on his butt. And even hair transplant wouldn't make him any better. Astaroth wasn't exactly good, but the other new character Ivy seems interesting, doesn't she? Ivy is unique in both playstyle and story. She's considered part of the trio of antagonists in this game, yet she isn't really a villain. Isabella Ivy Valentine, a tall, striking woman, was raised in a noble and wealthy British family. Her father, Count Valentine, became obsessed with alchemy and lost his mind, eventually dying in madness and staining the Valentine name. Her mother later passed away as well, but before her death, she revealed to Ivy that she was adopted. One day, while going through her parents' possessions, Ivy found her father's diary and started reading it. It turns out that it wasn't just alchemy that drove him insane. Virgie, the Adams family, Captain Cervantes, he had been researching Soul Edge. After reading it, she concluded that Soul Edge had ruined her family's name and decided to cleanse it by destroying the sword. But she needed a weapon capable of doing that, so she turned to alchemy herself. Ivy created a whip sword and named it after herself, but the weapon was lifeless. She wanted a living sword that could strike like a snake for some reason. When alchemy wasn't enough, she turned to ancient sorcery. Like her father, she eventually snapped, descending into madness. But at last, one of her rituals succeeded. She summoned a living hand that fused with her sword, giving it life. Little did she know, Soul Edge had tricked her. Later, she crossed paths with Nightmare and discovered he had helped create her weapon, leading her to join him. This is where things got confusing. Ivy, along with Astaroth and Lizardman, we'll talk about them later, began massacring people to collect souls for Nightmare, even though her goal was to destroy Soul Edge. Eventually, she snapped out of it, realizing she was working alongside a murderous lizard and the giant's baby, and decided to betray them. But as she tried to escape, Astaroth caught her and called her a bitch, which only made me hate him even more. He then demanded to know why she hadn't reacted to Soul Edge's eye, the very method the sword uses to control people. And that's when she realized that Nightmare's sword was Soul Edge. Well, it was obvious, wasn't it? But she also learned that she's a spare host for the sword. Astaroth then left the now confused Ivy to hunt some higher quality souls and left her to fight a bunch of clay golems. After the fight, the gunner bait Taki suddenly appears. As we know from Soul Blade, Taki's sword contains a shard of Soul Edge, which caused it to resonate with Ivy's weapon. That's when Ivy discovered her beloved whip sword had been fused with a piece of soul edge. Taki also told her she had the same aura as a pirate she once fought. Ivy realized she was talking about Cervantes. Then everything clicked. She was a perfect host. It was in her blood. Enraged, she returned to take revenge on Nightmare for tricking her. Oh boy. It's a good backstory, though not realizing she was serving soul edge the whole time feels a bit silly. Still, the payoff has a lot of potential, especially for future games. As for her playstyle, Ivy stands apart from other characters. She has zoning capabilities with her sword changing forms, allowing for long-reaching attacks. But with how good the movement is in this game, she pretty much falls apart as a zoner. In her ending, she discovered soul edge can't be destroyed and her cursed blood is the reason. But she came to terms with it. Her whole story is pretty interesting but vague to me. But at least she's more than just a waifu material to me now. Her costumes, or lack thereof, are awesome. I don't know what inspired her to become a dominatrix, but I have no complaints here. The color palette, dominated by royal purple with touches of blue and gold, gives her a regal air. Her second costume aligns more with her noble Valentine heritage, featuring another strong color palette dominated by red. Next, we have Nightmare, the current wielder of soul edge. The blue knight with the mysterious crimson eyes bore the huge sword in its malformed right hand. No one who saw the crimson eyes of the knight could escape its blade as it devoured their souls. The single eye of the huge sword looked like it was smiling in enrapturement as it tasted the blood of living things. Only the creature of darkness that served its cold blade were exempt from its fevered hunger for new souls. 3 years after the Spanish village saw the column of light, a small German village was in for a night of death as a knight with crimson eyes stood atop a cliff with the full moon on his back. It swallowed towns and villages in its path to the Black Woods. It was as if Captain Cervantes returned, but with a dreadfulness and evil far surpassing the original. We are coming, Father. I read this exactly as it was written in the wiki because I couldn't do it justice otherwise. But for context, if you've never played Soul Blade, Siegfried, Nightmare's real name, accidentally killed his own father while raiding fleeing knights with his bandit group Blackvent. He then descended into madness, convincing himself someone else had killed his father and imagining this killer as a powerful enemy who could only be defeated with Soul Edge. What we see of Nightmare here is the result of the first branch of Siegfried's ending in Soul Blade, where he gets his hands on Soul Edge and turns into a monster. His gameplay is slower than most characters. He retains many of his Soul Blade moves but gains 3 stances. He excels at keeping enemies at a distance with his enormous range. His Launcher 3B and his Quick 6A are prime examples of his reach and effectiveness. In his ending, with Soul Edge now filled with many souls, he summons his father back to life. But alas, it was only an illusion. His father tells him to repent and asks Siegfried to stab him, which he does, killing him a second time and accepting the truth of what he did all the way back in Soul Blade. He then breaks free from Soul Edge's control, standing over his father's grave. The sudden desire to resurrect his father still feels a bit abrupt, and if he was reliving a memory, he should have decapitated his head instead of stabbing him. We even have a concept art showing a headless Frederick Stauffen as a playable character. But overall, it was a nice continuation of his Soul Blade story, and the illusion part reminded me of Li Long's second ending. Nightmare's design is amazing. I mean, it's the damn logo of Project Soul, but he's not as over the top as in later games, perhaps even under-designed. He doesn't lean fully into the fantasy trope nor into realistic armor look, but I like the balance for what it is. I don't dislike his PS1 design, but they've created something much stronger here compared to Silent Hill-esque monster we had before. His second costume's helmet interestingly looks like Executor from Night Rain, but his story is not over because Siegfried himself is part of the roster and his story continues from where we left off in Nightmare's ending. After regaining his old self, Siegfried returned to his mother's house. Before going inside, he overheard his mother Margaret praying for her son's soul to find peace. Hearing that, he couldn't bring himself to face her yet. As the sun set, he set out to extinguish the unholy hellfire that had spread throughout the world. This moment is somewhat reminiscent of his second ending in Soul Blade. It's a shame that neither the game nor the official website explains how he actually returned to his old self, or even where he got the scar on his face. Another thing to note is his height. He was a short king in Soul Blade, standing at just 5'1" at the age of 16. Now he's already grown to 5'5". Many people dislike how he keeps growing like a tree, and I'm one of them. His playstyle isn't much different from Nightmare's, with mostly the same movesets and only a few changes. If you've come from Soul Blade, you'll feel very familiar with him. I should also point out his stage, Ostrinesberg Castle. The way it's recreated here really hits my nostalgia, and his music is by far the best in the game. After beating arcade mode with Siegfried, he rejoins his Blackwind gang, which curiously resembles the Band of the Hawk, and they begin hunting demons. He's another character with 3 costumes, 2 of which are essentially recolors inspired by his main plate armor from Soul Blade, featuring the same color palette but with longer hair. His second unique outfit is a black armor set that looks great on him. I can't recall Holy Roman Empire armor looking exactly like that, but the colors do resemble it somewhat. Now we're off to play the returning characters from Soul Blade, starting with the former poster boy, Mitsurugi. Many people told me that this character became a joke after Soul Blade, and now I see why. According to this game, he didn't even find Soul Edge in the previous story, meaning he got 0 character development. The whole point back then was that the Tanagashima, a type of firearm, was replacing swords on the battlefield, and he was losing his livelihood because real sword skills were becoming obsolete. He set out to find a sword that could defeat a gun, only to learn that it's not the weapon that matters, but the person wielding it. Here, the same concept is recycled, but far less effectively. He gets embarrassed after challenging a gunner, losing in front of a lord and taking a bullet to the chest. Now he wants to find Soul Edge again to prove that swords can always win. It feels like the bad ending from Soul Blade's arcade mode, minus actually finding Soul Edge. His playstyle has changed a lot compared to Soul Blade. After losing to a gun and being shot in the chest, he upgraded his style to Tempokusai Ryukai and changed his weapon from Korofuji to Shishio. His new style includes 2 stances that look great, but they aren't amazing to use, aside from his just frame unblockable. You can deal significant damage with him, and his pokes have a good range for their speed. He's a solid choice if you're new to the game and want an easy but not broken character. When you beat arcade mode with him, he picks up Soul Edge and bullies pirates with it. Oh man, this feels so wrong. His costumes are a downgrade too, in my opinion. His main outfit looks like a worse version of his Soul Blade alternate, and while his second costume with a half-open jacket is cool, it's paired with a nonsensical hairstyle. Also, his chest scar is missing from his final model for some reason, and the future games will retcon it, moving the scar from his chest to his arm. But hey, at least he didn't suddenly get taller, yet. But just like in Soul Blade's arcade release, where Mitsurugi was replaced in the Korean version with a clone called Hwang, because having a samurai in the game didn't look good politically, he was replaced here as well. Unlike Hwang, who later received his own unique slot, this character didn't. He was basically a blonde Mitsurugi known as Arthur. Born in a harbor town in England, Arthur became a sailor at the age of 8. With no family of his own, his crew became his family, until they betrayed him when they reached Japan, selling him to a merchant. The merchant became his stepfather, and Arthur was happy to finally have a parent. He learned Japanese and their traditions just to please him, but this stepfather later gave him up to a local lord for some flimsy excuse. Arthur then went to war, but his blonde hair made him a prime target for arrows and gunfire, putting him at a constant disadvantage. Having no place among the Japanese and no home to return to in England, as he already forgotten his mother tongue, he was a swordsman without roots. Driven by a desire for recognition, he went to even more wars, risking his life repeatedly to grow stronger. In the process, he lost one of his eyes, something people once called jewels, but in return he gained countless scars, an unshakable self-confidence, and the love of a woman who used to be a prostitute. By the time life gave him a child, rumors of Soul Edge began to circulate. Seeing this as a sign, he abandoned his newborn child and wife to return to Europe, hoping to find Soul Edge so that people would respect him and his family. But would such a scarred man remain sane after picking up such an evil sword? Arthur was, in my opinion, far more compelling than Mitsurugi. He does appear again in later games, but I'm still sad he never received the Hwang treatment like in Soul Blade. His costumes are almost identical to Mitsurugi's, but I'd like to point out his concept art, which resembles Mitsurugi's alternate costume from Soul Blade, only with blue color palette. Next, we have our baker girl turned warrior, Sophitia. Sophitia was chosen by Hephaestus, the god of smithing, to fight Soul Edge in the original Soul Blade. As I mentioned in the prologue of this video, she destroys one half of Soul Edge, then falls unconscious, only to wake up in her own bed. Her story here basically picks up from her Edge Master mode ending, where she returns to being a baker. But one day, while shopping with her sister, she suddenly lost consciousness, presumably after having a vision of Soul Edge's return. She was carried back home by a man named Rothian, and from then on they fell in love and planned to marry. I wish real life was that simple. They went to Hephaestus to tell him about their marriage, but the god suddenly told them of Soul Edge's return, saying Sophitia needed to finish the job. Rothian insisted he would go instead, but the god pointed out, "You are blacksmith, aren't you? This time it is you who will forge the armor and weapon to protect Sophitia." So he gave Rothian a raw chunk of sacred iron, and from it Rothian forged the Omega Sword and Elk Shield. Sophitia then set out to defeat Soul Edge for good. Our baker girl is another great
great choice for beginners. She has a lot of safe options like her neutral A and 1K, her launchers are excellent, her A plus B can parry horizontal attacks making her strong against A spammers, her B plus K can lead into such cool strings, her Angela step is back, her Nutcracker grab is back, she's easy to combo with, and she can do this and this. I'm calling it now, she's my favorite returning character and definitely waifu material. Speaking of wives, she finally marries Ruthin in her ending and gives birth to their child with this strange background art. I wonder where that storyline goes. Sophitia is another character with 3 costumes. Her main one shows her in a more traditional Greek attire, resembling her Soul Blade outfit but with more color and less armor. In the Japanese version, you could even change the color of her panties as with some other characters. I should also say I think her bangs look better in her render. Her second outfit has a different hairstyle with a white, blue and purple color palette. I can't find any historical reference for this one, but I like the symmetry. Her third outfit is fully armored, but it looks much more European than Byzantine, which is a bit of a shame, though I still like it. We then have the bait herself, Taki. Taki was done dirty in Soul Blade with how much of her story was cut in Edge Master mode, and it's the same case here. Her in-game profile is almost naked compared to her website profile, but luckily we have enough material to cover here, even enough to touch on Soul Blade. Taki was an orphan raised by Toki, the Fuma Ninja clan master. He was actively searching for a ninja to name Mekimaru, the shrine weapon that kept being stolen in Soul Blade. This weapon was taken by his former Flow clan leader, Hachibe, who ran away with his daughter Chie, Taki's childhood friend and Lilong's wife. Things are getting interesting. Taki wanted Hachibe dead, partially because he abandoned the clan, but mainly because he wanted that sword. Since no one in the clan could find Hachibe, Taki was tasked with retrieving Mekimaru. She eventually found him living quietly, with Hachibe and Chie running a small stall on a lonely roadside, accompanied by a man of remarkable strength. I can't help but to wonder if that was Lilong. When this supposedly strong man was away, Taki approached Hachibe but only to have a chat. He told her that Taki changed when he became obsessed with Mekimaru. He then entrusted the sword to Taki, telling her he's ill and might die soon. Taki found the blade dull, but Hachibe insisted it possessed extraordinary spiritual power. She helped them escape and later reported that the Chinese man, Chie's lover, had taken Mekimaru and that both Hachibe and Chie were dead. I wonder if this is how Lilong came to believe Chie had died. This whole chain of events changes a lot of context in Soul Blade and may even retcon parts of it. Furious, Taki ordered the Chinese man to be hunted down, and Taki finally realized her foster father had truly lost himself to the sword. Afterwards, the events of Soul Blade unfolded. Mekimaru resonated with Cervantes' soul edge. Taki found and defeated him, but lost her beloved self-made Rekimaru in the process. She brought Sophitia home and began repairing her forged sword using a shard of soul edge, but failed. She then turned to Mekimaru, and the soul edge fragment resonated with it perfectly. Upon reuniting the two, a dark aura enveloped the blade, and Taki found she could not wield it without becoming fatigued. That's when Geki, Toki's right-hand man, found Taki and captured her. He took Mekimaru from her and unleashed it, only for his hand to explode. Taki quickly broke free, took the sword back and fled, thinking to herself what might happen if Taki got his hand on such a powerful blade. Later she learned that Soul Edge had returned, so she set out to fight it, hoping its dark power might counterbalance that of Mekimaru. By now, she was a deserter like Hachibe. The demon she had sealed away, Jello Fury, had broken free due to Evil Seed, and Nightmare was bringing destruction across Europe. Oh boy, that was a long one, but we got a lot more context for her story, even going back to Soul Blade. In this game, Taki uses both Rekimaru and Mekimaru. We never got confirmation that she repaired Rekimaru, but the story mentions that it sensed the return of Soul Edge, so I assume she did. Her controls in Soulcalibur are slightly more streamlined compared to Soul Blade. Personally, her playstyle has never been for me, and that hasn't changed here. But one useless detail I can add is that in Soulcalibur 1, if you keep hitting a defeated opponent, they repeat their KO voice clip. Taki is either the funniest or the worst depending on who you ask. Her ending is unfortunately just, "I defeated Inferno, mission complete," which is as lame as Soul Blade. Her costumes are also a downgrade in my opinion. Her mask is now a simple cloth and part of her jumpsuit is removed, which doesn't suit her. Her second outfit is also forgettable. Her renders are oddly off too, likely because of the eyes. They just look lifeless. She also gained an inch in height, now listed as 5'7". Upon further examination, I realized that Soul Blade's height measurement in feet and centimeters probably weren't accurate, and Soul Series' already questionable height system became even more confusing for me. Next up, we have our good puppy Voldo. Let's see how he's doing. Voldo was Verchi's right-hand man, also known as the Merchant of Death. Before Verchi died, he tasked Voldo with guarding his treasures in a deep, dark pit. Voldo later became insane in that pit and started hearing his dead master's
master's voice. I fully covered his past story in my Soul Blade retrospective if you want the full details. In Soulcalibur though, we are told that Voldo failed in his quest to find Soul Edge, an order given by his dead master's ghostly voice. When he returned to his lonely pit, he found it submerged underwater, which we can actually see on the stage itself. As he was draining part of the pit of water, Taki suddenly raided it. She was looking for Virtue's note about Soul Edge, something you do with nearly the entire roster in Soul Blade. I don't know why it's repeated here. Taki likely used the fused Mekimaru and Voldo sensed its mysterious power. When Taki ran away from the pit, Voldo kneeled before Virtue's coffin to report to him as usual, and suddenly he hears his voice again. "She had the scent of Soul Edge! Chase her and bring me Soul Edge!" Gaining morale, Voldo set out once more to find Soul Edge. Just like in Soul Blade, he has a chaotic moveset, and many of his moves return here. He's one of the few characters I enjoyed more in Soul Blade, but his moveset still complements his character well. For example, his go-to launcher is 1K, unlike many characters who use 3B, and his newest stance is a chef's kiss. In his ending, we see him giving in to Soul Edge's power and reuniting with his master Virtue as he regains his youth and old memories. I don't know if this is an illusion or can be taken literally, but since we've seen it with Siegfried, I take it as an illusion. His costumes are truly a downgrade compared to Soul Blade. His design was meant to have asymmetry to reflect his chaotic nature, but here that asymmetry is not very present in any of his three designs. The first one has a terrible contrast compared to his dark blue outfit in Soul Blade. The second is the best looking one out of the three, I guess, and his bald head was censored for some reason in North America. The third has a cage-like mask instead of wrappings, which is kind of cool, yet the color palette leaves much to be desired. But I can't say this, we can finally see the little rats that melted our hearts in his art book illustrations roaming around in Money Pit. Now we've reached the second half of our roster, the unlockable characters. Except for Cervantes, these characters have movesets based on fighters I've already covered. Aside from Siegfried, they aren't similar enough to be called full clones. While they share some moves, some often have different properties. They also have their own unique fighting stance and some distinct attacks of their own. Let's start with our so-called vice giant, Rock. Rock was an important part of Soul Blade's lore, but he wasn't fleshed out as much as the others. In Soulcalibur, we kind of get a continuation of his alternate Soul Blade ending. During that path, Rock encounters Sophitia on his journey to obtain Soul Edge and uncover his past, but he loses to Sophitia. Long ago, Rock's parents were taken from him at sea by Cervantes. Later, he found himself in America and met Bangu, an orphan who had also lost his family. Rock became a father to him, and by abandoning Bangu in pursuit of Soul Edge, he was only repeating the same cycle of loss. After his defeat by Sophitia, he returned to Bangu, choosing to leave the past behind and embrace the future. One day, rumors of mysterious lizard-like humanoids disturbed their peaceful life, and before long, they set their sights on Rock. When they couldn't capture him, they attacked his home instead and took Bangu hostage to use him as bait. Behind it all was Kunpaitsku, the very man who created Astaroth, and the one Rock's own fighting style is modeled after. Now 3 years have passed, and Rock is still searching for Bangu. His playstyle, like Astaroth's, feature many charge moves and command grabs, including throws that work on downed opponents and a powerful command throw that's excellent for ring outs. Although he lost his broken 6AA string from Soul Blade, I find him much more enjoyable to use here. He's not as strong as Astaroth overall, but I personally like him more. In his ending, he rescues Bangu, who then mimics Rock's victory pose on a mountaintop, with Rock watching proudly. Rock's costumes have always been interesting. He wears the heads of the monsters he's defeated, and here it's said that he does so out of respect, but that doesn't make any sense to me, since his second costume features a Lizardman skull, and I doubt he has any respect for them. And still, he is a bit too short for a giant. Next, let's take a look at Lizardman, the one who we saw working for Nightmare. You might think he's just some random lizard with Sophitia's moveset that got thrown into the lore out of nowhere, but this so-called stupid lizard was once a man from Sparta named Aeon Kalkis. It turns out Sophitia wasn't the only one blessed with an oracle from Hephaestus. There were 24 in total, named after the Greek alphabet, all of them pure souls who could hear the voice of the old gods and were ordered to destroy Soul Edge. Aeon, however, was unlucky. One day, while wandering the desert, he collapsed and was saved by a nearby village. The villagers were plagued by bandits, and Aeon offered to teach them swordsmanship to defend themselves. But only a week later, the evil seed struck, and before he could repay their kindness, he transformed into a berserker and slaughtered them all. Soon the berserker became infamous, and word of him reached the Grand Priest Kunpaitsku. Aeon was captured and subjugated to cruel experiments that transformed him into a lizard. Months of madness erased his true memories, but his fighting instincts remained intact, making him the perfect puppet for the priest. Honestly, I can't help but to pity him. Gameplay-wise, Lizardman is very similar to Sophitia, though I personally prefer her style of fighting. His combos are excellent for ring outs thanks to their strong carry, and his headbutts and odd Voldo-like moves gives him a much more savage feel compared to Sophitia. That said, his shared animations with her are pretty funny to look at. His ending though isn't anything remarkable. He simply continues his rampage with his buddies after defeating Soul Edge. His design also isn't as strong as it would become in later games, but I do like the minimalist approach here, and the Spartan-inspired armor looks good on him in both costumes. Next, let's take a look at Hwang. He was a clone in Soul Blade, and he's a clone again in Soulcalibur, this time with a moveset based on Xianghua, which I enjoyed playing a lot. In Soulcalibur, Hwang never found Soul Edge, or the Patriot Sword as the previous game called it. Instead, he returned from his journey with the runaway Mina, his master's daughter, who had secretly followed him to search for the sword herself. With Japan invading again, he rejoined the Coast Guard as a commander. However, a new recruit named Kong informed him that Mina is at it again. In his anger, Hwang made a poor decision and was attacked by Japanese pirates. This led to him being dismissed by his commander, but he was soon given new orders to help Myung, his master and Mina's father, in finding her again. In his ending, after being injured in battle with Inferno, Mina came to his aid. Realizing how evil Soul Edge truly was, he declared, "We need not to rely on legends anymore. We shall protect our country ourselves." Hwang was reduced much like Mitsurugi. He lost the character development he had in Soul Blade, only to regain it in his Soulcalibur ending. The previous ending was way more effective because it clearly showed what could happen if he ignored Soul Edge's corrupting influence. His new fighting style though is excellent. He shares Xianghua's moves, bring back his unique techniques from Soul Blade, has a kick similar to Seung Mi-na's, highlighting that they share the same master, and even includes one of Mitsurugi's attacks. He's slightly harder to use than Xianghua, but playing him after Soul Blade is very satisfying. Hwang's new design is also interesting. He's more exposed compared to his Soul Blade look, and the purple and blue color palette works very well. His second outfit is a reimagining of his alternate costume from Soul Blade, and I really like the redesign. Now let's follow up Hwang with Mina. She was more of a joke character in Soul Blade story-wise, but Soulcalibur is another story. Mina basically continues from her first ending in Soul Blade without finding Soul Edge, that is. Just like before, her father has grounded her and wants to force her into marriage. He's easily the worst father in Soulcalibur universe. She wanted to defend her country against the Japanese invasion, but she couldn't even join the defending force because she was a woman. So she decided to hunt the Sword of Salvation, or by its Soul Blade named the Patriot Sword Soul Edge, again to gain respect. When she reached Western soil, she encountered Ivy, who knew about Soul Edge. She asked about the so-called Sword of Salvation, and Ivy told her there is no salvation. It's a demon sword, ending her sentence with, "You should stay away from the blade and sit at home, pretty baby." If we learn one thing from Soul Blade, it's that the word baby triggers Mina. So she dueled Ivy with her Zambato but lost, breaking her confidence in her abilities. Some moments later, a drunk man approached her. The man was carrying a rod with him. "The sword of that lady was a rare thing indeed. Indeed, it was a good lesson for you to learn not to challenge so boldly, wasn't it? Luckily you are young, so you can become stronger, eh, baby?" Being called baby a second time, she lost her temper again and attacked the man, but he easily avoided it. Mina then asked the man to train her. Even though the man was drunk, he used his rod in such an elegant way, as if he's not who he seems to be. Mina trained hard and improved very fast until one day the man left with a note, telling her he had taught her all he could. Mina then continued her search for Soul Edge. Remember in Hwang's section I said a new recruit named Kong rats Mina out. It turns out it's the same Kong who stole Krita Yuga, the old candidate for Kali Yuga. To put it simply, Mina's fighting style now is a mix of her father's long blade technique and the Ling Shengsu style rod. That's why her moveset is a mix between Kilik and her Soul Blade counterpart, and she still has some similar kicks to Hwang, courtesy of having the same master. But I wouldn't recommend starting with her if you've never played the game before. Not that you can anyway, because she's locked by default. Her ending is similar to Hwang's but in reverse, concluding with a proposal from Kim, who wants to gift her cattle. Ew. Her costumes are a big improvement over Soul Blade in my opinion, especially her shorter version, which complements her tomboy side much better than Soul Blade. We only have 4 characters left. Let's go with Yoshimitsu now. You can consider this guy the first ever crossover this series had. He is not the same Yoshimitsu as in Tekken, but they do share the same story theme: revenge. Yoshi is a ninja from the Manji clan. You may ask, if he's a ninja, why does he wield a katana? That's because the Manji clan was known for disguising disguising themselves as samurais. One day, Oda Nobunaga invited the clan chief to meet him. The chief was old, so he sent his strongest warrior instead, Yoshimitsu. As expected, Nobunaga wanted an alliance with the Manji clan, but the clan wanted to stay hidden in this age of chaos. Yoshimitsu stayed at Nobunaga's castle for a few days before outright denying his request out of respect. But upon his return, he found his village and clan massacred. Nobunaga had an ambush ready in case they refused, and upon their refusal, he destroyed them all. Yoshimitsu then tried to get revenge, but he was only one man. He failed and lost his right arm in the process. His only hope now was the rumors about Soul Edge, the sword of vengeance in his case. He went west to find the sword, but as he saw the destruction Nightmare was bringing to the world, his quest for revenge was challenged. If he gives in to his thirst for revenge, is he any different than Nobunaga or Nightmare? Aside from some of his Tekken moves, Yoshi shares movesets with Mitsurugi as well. He's also considered one of the most broken characters in Soulcalibur 1, with insane lows, an amazing command grab, and his unblockable pogo stick stance. He just doesn't have bad moves. In his ending, he basically becomes a Robin Hood figure and creates a band of chivalrous thieves. His costumes are a bit goofy in my opinion, especially his second one, which is made of wood, which doesn't make sense because unlike how he may look, this guy is actually human. We have 3 to go, and next is Cervantes, a character exclusive to the Dreamcast version. Unfortunately, there isn't much in terms of story here. We just know that he was resurrected unknowingly according to the wiki by Nightmare. Now he wants Soul Edge back, even though it robbed him of his free will. There's some additional lore here and there. A notable claim states that he made a barmaid in Blacktail Inn pregnant just to create a spare host for Soul Edge under its influence. I could confirm that Ivy's mother was a barmaid from Blacktail Inn, but I couldn't find sources for the other statement, so comments below if you do. Cervantes alongside Yoshimitsu is considered one of the most broken characters in this game. He's a rushdown fighter who, if he connects a move and launches you, can delete your HP bar in seconds. He retained many of his moves from Soul Edge, so if you come from that game, you'll feel right at home. In his ending, he reunites with Soul Edge and basically repeats his line from his Soul Blade ending.
Raise the anchor, me hearties!
His design hasn't changed much from Soul Blade, and he looks even better here in high definition. His second outfit closely resembles his Soul Edge artbook illustration, but this time with the mask, which looks perfect on him. I'm not a fan of his swords though. In Soul Blade, his old self used Mangouche. Here we have these bulky pair of swords which I hate. I also would have liked to see how Cervantes' version of Soul Edge looks in high definition, with all that skin-like texture, but unfortunately, we won't get to see that for quite a while. It's time for our second to last character, Edgemaster. He's the Mokujin of the game, randomly selecting a fighting style each round. He also shares his name with Soul Blade's dedicated single-player mode, Edgemaster mode. I wonder if that's a coincidence. As far as this game goes, not much is known about him. His past and true name are only known to himself. We know he saves and trains Kilik after what happened in Ling Shengsu Temple, but what happens afterward is even more cryptic. In his ending, we see him transforming into his second outfit, which has a demonic design with a large scar on his head, and then he attacks Kilik for another test. I shall teach you the art of mastering the evil within you by using evil itself. When it comes to gameplay, selecting him is basically gambling, but his weapons are unique to him. One unfortunate thing that didn't make it into this game was the different weapons you could unlock and choose as every character in Soul Blade. Here, selections are limited to 3 per character, the third being Edgemaster's weapon model. Aside from looking funny while performing other characters' animations, some clearly aren't designed for him, like this Astaroth move. As for costumes, Edgemaster is amazing. He even has some art in the official Soul Edge artbook. I wonder where that came from. One thing that makes him even more cryptic is that he doesn't wield a weapon shown in his renders. As far as mysterious characters go, this guy is a Chad. And finally, we have Inferno, the personified form of Soul Edge. This final boss of the game is another Mokujin with random style selection each round. To unlock him, you have to finish the game with Xianghua while using a third costume for some reason. He has some unique moves, but otherwise he's basically another Edgemaster. Now, Soulcalibur actually has a weight system. If you play Astaroth, for example, it's easier to push enemies toward the edge of the arena, but Inferno even has the same weight as Edgemaster. Since there isn't much to cover on his gameplay, let's talk about a defining mechanic in this game, Soul Charge. Counter hits play a vital role in Soulcalibur. Basically, hitting an enemy between their attack animation changes the effect of your attacks, from dealing more damage to launching them higher. Soulcalibur. It's a risk-reward system that turns your next attack into a counter hit, but any hit against you while it's active is also registered as a counter hit. It's activated with A plus B plus K, and if you cancel it at the right time by pressing G, some attacks even become unblockable. Now back to Inferno. In his ending, Krita Yuga is consumed by Soul Edge and creates another evil weapon. I'll be honest, this character is lame. He looks terrible in his boss fight variant alone. His playable version looks even worse. He doesn't have unique weapon models like Edgemaster, and you can even apply his blue crystallized look to all characters later as a reward. Compared to Soul Blade's Inferno, this version is a downgrade in every way. With Inferno done, we're finished with Soulcalibur. I don't know if it's clear enough, but I really have a love-hate relationship with this game. It massively improved the gameplay, and most of the new characters are amazing, but we also got characters like Inferno or the killing of Lilong for Maxi. Their stories are amazing for the most part, but we have to read them on a website rather than a dedicated single-player mode. We had Edgemaster mode in Soul Blade, which was fantastic, but here we have Mission mode. Mission mode is more fun in terms of creative encounters, like a 2D stage or fighting while rats bite your feet, but it has almost no stories besides some minor references. Features like critical edge were removed, we don't have in-game cutscenes for such a visually impressive game, the music is less varied than Soul Edge, and we didn't even get a single new arrangement from the transition from the arcade version. Seriously, I can go on, but I can say this. For the 1 month I played this game, a game I have zero nostalgia for, I loved it. I can't deny its magic. I would say Soul Edge was a better game, but Soulcalibur 1 plays better. Like the previous video, I'll finish with some fun facts and details. After evaluating Soul Edge's success, producer Hiroaki Yotoriyama demanded a fresh direction rather than a simple sequel. Development began with 60 people for arcade version. It launched on 1998, running on Namco System 12, basically an overclocked PlayStation. Compared to Soul Blade's 30 frames per second, Soulcalibur ran at a smooth 60. Character supervisor Ko Onda stated they decided to make happy characters because Soul Edge's Siegfried story was too dark and depressing. In fact, Namco actively sought feedback from Western Soul Edge fans for exotic fighters. Character designer Koji Mitsunaga recalled overseas players loved their freaks, prompting new cast members like Yoshimitsu, Astaroth, and Lizardman. I mean, Voldo was the most popular character in Europe, so that makes sense. Early brainstorming even toyed with wilder ideas, from a female Voldo to a possessed puppet. When Sega's Dreamcast neared launch, Namco ported Soulcalibur as a tentpole title. A 40-people team was given 7 months to complete the home version by the North American launch date, which is crazy because they changed a lot in this game in such a short time. Character models were reworked with roughly 4,000 polygons each, and the team repainted all textures at full 16-bit color. They even added real mouth animations rather than just switching textures on their faces while speaking. Dynamic lighting was also enhanced. Crucially, the ports locked at 60 FPS with no slowdown. Soulcalibur quickly became a smash hit on Dreamcast, far more so than its underwhelming arcade debut. It's widely lauded as one of the greatest fighting games of all time with a 98 on Metacritic. And there you have it, Soulcalibur 1 retrospective. If you watched this far, make sure to like and subscribe to my channel. It really boosts my morale. You can also check out my previous video about Soul Edge by clicking the video that appears here. Otherwise, I'm PuriX, and I'll see you next time with Soulcalibur 2.